With me here in the studio are Ian Dunt, who's the editor of the website politics.co.uk, and also with us is Joe Twyman from the polling agency YouGov. And Joe, let's just put this in historic perspective first in Copeland. A phenomenal win for the Conservatives.
Governments don't win by-elections. They don't win seats from other parties. That hasn't happened for 35 years. And so this is well, not unprecedented. It's hugely uncommon. And really going into these two elections, Labour, the best they could do was hold on to things. And so people would say, oh, well, you'd expect them to in these circumstances. And they haven't even managed to do that. And
they're saying it's actually the best win by a government since the 60s in terms of the swing from Labour to Conservative in this instance. And others, Ian, are saying that gives Theresa May a real firm grip on power. Just one by-election win can do that?
Well, I mean, the thing is that she has no opposition. So, I mean, this is part of a broader story that we've been telling about Theresa May, where there's just no one to stand up to her. And even within her own party, I mean, there was a while we were saying, OK, fine, so look, Lib Dems are decimated, you've got nothing coming in from UKIP, Labour don't seem to have any understanding of what their policies are or what they're even on earth for. And so maybe it would be moderates in her own party or the right of her own party, but even they stayed silent during the Article 50 bill. So it has to be said, she doesn't really face any opposition.
I mean, so then, is it an emergency for Labour? Is Jeremy Corbyn right to say he's going to stay in his job?
No, he's completely wrong to say he's going to stay in his job. This couldn't possibly get any worse. I mean, the way it's looking now, it looks like it's even worse than the polling looks like. I mean, this is a party that's cruising towards, what, 150 seats, 170 seats, unless they change something. And by that stage, they would have had absolutely no influence on Theresa May's Brexit negotiations. It's looking very, very bad for them indeed.
Just very quickly, Ian, who do you think John McDonnell, the Shadow Chancellor, is referring to when he told Andy that people don't want macho leaders, especially when the Prime Minister is, of course, a woman?
I have no idea. My suspicion is that when he says this stuff, what he's thinking of is whatever Jeremy Corbyn is, that's what he says that people want.
Yeah.
And so that's the form of logic. He might have been talking about Blair, might have been talking about Theresa May, but heaven knows.
Joe, let's be honest, it wasn't a complete disaster for Labour last night because, of course, they won in Stoke, and that's where UKIP suffered.
Yes, that's true. They'd held on to Stoke for since 1950, so it would have been a real disaster if they'd lost there because they were way ahead at the election. But UKIP performed incredibly poorly in terms of their campaign. And so the series of mistakes, not just the mistakes over Hillsborough, but mistakes over where Paul Nuttall was living and his qualifications, whether he was a professional footballer, all these sorts of things, dressing up as a 1920s country gent, all of these things, one after the other, just added to his lack of credibility. And the question now is, if he can't win in Stoke, somewhere so heavily dominated by people voting Brexit, then where can he win? The party, UKIP, needs someone that appeals to the golf club and the working man's club if they're going to capture the kind of political support that they need in order to make a dent.
But just very briefly, they still polled thousands of votes in Stoke. They polled millions when they were coming second in so many constituencies in the general election. Has it completely gone south for them, or, you know, can they resurrect their momentum, if you like, under Paul Nuttall with Nigel Farage gone?
Well, you're right that 3.8 million people voted for them at the last election, which is phenomenal, but only one MP. They're hampered by the electoral system. They're also hampered by the fact that now we have voted for Brexit, and so in some people's eyes, their reason for existence leaves. And so, along with Nigel Farage, they have no clear path, no leader that's particularly popular in the same way. And so this long-term aim of winning people over who are dissatisfied, distrusting and disapproving of the entire political system, yes, it could happen maybe at the next election, but if it's going to happen at all, it's going to be a longer-term prospect, I think.
Interesting times, gentlemen. Thank you both very much indeed.